Hi, welcome to the Leaders in Transport Roundtable, where we bring key leaders and key voices of the supply chain to discuss how the Middle East region can roll out the COVID-19 vaccine efficiently and safely. Today we have an esteemed panel. They'll be talking to us about this in greater detail. So let's welcome all of our speakers this morning. So first up, it is the UAE Managing Director with Maersk, Mr. Christopher Cook. Very good morning.
Good morning.
Well, good to have you here today. And then we have Mr. Kay Wolf-Alden, who is the President and CEO of Daimler Commercial Vehicles in the MENA region. Very good morning to you.
Thank you.
Okay. And then we have Tobias Meyer, who is the CFO at DHL Middle East and Africa and CEO for Saludo Middle East and Africa. Thank you very much for joining us and very good morning. And then we have Mr. Madhab Kurub, who is the Regional CEO for the Middle East and South Asia region with Hellman Worldwide Logistics.
Thank you.
And we're also joined virtually by Dennis Lister, Vice President Cargo Commercial Development at Emirates Sky Cargo. Very good morning to you.
Good morning, Abdul.
Very good morning to you guys. My name is Abdul Karim Hanif, presenter for Pulse 95 Radio, as well as Khalij Times, and we're just getting ourselves acquainted over here with all the names. So thank you very much for joining us. So let's start off with Mr. Cook, talking to us about how Maersk is planning for the big rollout and how are we progressing with the current challenges and what are we doing?
Thank you. And I think to start with, it's good just to set the scene a bit on what we understand will be the requirements from the pharmaceutical sector. I mean, I think we've all seen the requirements around the temperature requirements of the product. We've seen a lot on the integrity that's going to be needed in the supply chain. And it's also very clear that where the vaccines are going to move from where they're produced to where they'll be consumed is still not yet confirmed. We just learned this morning that the UK will take some of the first batches of the Pfizer vaccine, but we don't yet know where those flows will come from. So as Maersk is preparing for this, we've aligned an agreement with the COVAX production in the US. So we'll be supporting the distribution of those vaccines when they're developed, the first 100 million planned in Q1. But we really anticipate that this is going to be an industry, an approach where the industry will have to come together because there's never been anything of this size moved across the world. So I think it will be partnership between companies like ours in the room. It will be requiring obviously a huge amount of air freight to move these vaccines. But I think longer term, containerized movements are going to be the lower cost way to move these vaccines to the populations that we need to serve.
I very much liked what we just heard, partnership across industries. I think no sector can do it alone, and we as a manufacturer of commercial vehicles, trucks for Mercedes-Benz and Mitsubishi Fuso, but mainly Mercedes-Benz for here, are prepared to support this not only with vehicles of the latest technology, but also with an extensive network of workshops, whether they are physical or mobile, to keep the trucks on the road and running. Because if you go into distribution, it is very important that we have a plannable and foreseeable, reliable logistics chain. And that is our main focus now. We operate 2 spare parts warehouses here. We operate more than 10 physical workshops in the UAE. And there's a total of 600 employees in the different facilities, our own facilities and those of our dealers, supporting the commercial vehicle customers. And I think the very important issue that we have focused on early on when this pandemic hit is focus first of all on our own employees. And I think that is very important for all companies to keep your own employees safe, to safeguard the performance of your company so that we can safeguard employment and income for those employees so that they don't have to worry about their own personal future, but that they can look and forward to find new and creative solutions. I believe we can only be creative if there is no fear. So I think one of the foremost objectives and tasks of us as CEOs or managers of companies is to take the fear factor of our employees away so that they can actually focus on the task at hand. And yes, partnerships across sectors, creative new solutions necessary, something that we haven't done before, needs creativity and cooperation, and that can only be achieved if our people are safe, fearless, and can focus on the job at hand. So I think that is one of the major things that we've done, and therefore we have a policy: everybody will keep their job, everybody will keep their income, so that we prepare our company to be a good partner for everybody who needs help with transportation solutions.
Mr. Madhav Kurup, who's the regional CEO for the Middle East and South Asia with Hellman Worldwide Logistics, how are we seeing this current challenge that we understand that air freight is going to be the dominant form, and then getting it rolled out to the people as quickly as possible? Is it going to be a little bit of a burden and a stress for your side of the sector?
Firstly, I think just to quickly on the situation, we as a Hellman, we have implemented a business continuity plan when it happened. Of course, that primarily focused on the robust proactivity and also the high level of flexibility and making sure the people safety is paramount, because we are a business of people. We don't own assets. That's our people are assets. If we don't have our people, we can't offer services to our customers. So we ensure that through various measures, our people are safe. That allows to provide services to our priority industry customers during this pandemic, primarily the healthcare sector and also the FMCG sector. I think we have been extremely successful on that one. Coming back to the COVID-19 vaccine, to me, it is not necessarily a new cold chain management. There is an existing global healthcare cold chain and validated network existing around the world, which is primarily through different modes of transport, and then also involves different temperature regimes. So managing the cold chain, it's not a new challenge for our industry, but the size and the scale of the situation is the challenge. Different challenges in terms of infrastructure, in terms of regulatory processes, in terms of customs processes in different countries around the world. So how do you manage the cold chain with full integrity right from end-to-end solution, which is the biggest challenge in the healthcare industry. End of the day, in the transportation business, point-to-point transportation of any product is a transportation. But when it comes to the healthcare, how do you ensure the integrity of the product until it reaches the patient? So that's the biggest challenge. How do you ensure that the product reaches the patient the same level of quality and integrity and it reaches produced? And I think when it comes to the vaccine distribution, I would say there are 3 C's: the cost, capacity, and compliance. These are the 3 C's that is a key pillar of how the challenges is going to be managed. When it comes to Hellman in Dubai, we have established a healthcare hub in Dubai 10 years back, and that involved a full validation of end-to-end, which includes flight and vessel arrival at the airport, the port, come to the warehouse, our hub here, and the entire warehousing processes, right? That includes making sure compliance, storage, and also making sure that that includes the product integrity in terms of temperature control, as well as the regulatory compliance has been achieved. And then all processes within the warehouses is validated through a simulation exercise when the first product was arrived into our hub. In terms of scale of the issue that we're going to face, at the same time, I think like Chris mentioned here, that we don't know yet what is going to be the first vaccine to be available. And then we heard over the last couple of months that different vaccines are requiring different temperature regimes. Some of them are talking about 2 to 8, some of them are talking about -20, and some of them are talking about -80. So how the supply chain globally is not at all prepared for this.
Our approach at Emirates Sky Cargo has always been and always will be about logistics preparedness. Even in 2015, we have invested significant cash to ensure that we are prepared. We've invested in our infrastructure, our people, our processes to ensure that we can cater and be ready to move pharmaceuticals globally. We move more pharma now weekly than what we did before COVID. So we move on average about anything from 1.5 million kilos to 1.7 million kilos on a weekly basis. This is without question the largest product launch in our history. It requires significant preparation and investment. At Emirates, we have reactivated our hub in the Al Maktoum Airport, DWC. We have 65,000 square meters facility, and of that, 15,000 square meters is temperature controlled, of which this will be purely dedicated for the movement of vaccines.
How do you see, Maersk has been at the forefront of getting the data sharing initiatives out there. How do you see that playing out during the vaccine rollout? Because at the moment we're still getting ourselves acquainted with the situation, but data sharing is definitely going to be a key area of focus.
I think one of the areas where Maersk has developed a platform along with IBM is as a trade lanes offering, which is in place today. Port operators, ocean lines, rail operators, trucking companies, customs authorities are connected into that. It sits on the blockchain, so it's digital, it's permission-based blockchain, so that means that the integrity of the information in there is secured by those players in that network. And I think these types of offering where you can have a secure and digital, and digital, as you mentioned also, Tobias, is something that's really become a watchword of the crisis as we've moved a lot of analog transactions online. So I think where we've prepared is around our digital platforms, TradeLens being an open market platform which is already operating today.
Winston Churchill already said, don't let the good crisis go to waste. I think the digital push has been there. I think it's an opportunity to really look at how can we find an effective way of sharing all the relevant information. I think it has to be said there is not yet, unfortunately, a clear standard available. I think there are solutions, which is good. But for me, I think there is still room for improvement. And I think perhaps it's an opportunity to finally establish such an ecosystem, if you wish. Another big subject for us, and we also launched an initiative, it's called Go Trade, is really how can we then link up all the customs authorities across the globe. Because what we've seen, and you mentioned the PPE already, in the PPE crisis, there was so much cargo stuck in China. You had planes going back empty because it wasn't customs cleared, which was such a waste. Again, people needed desperately this equipment, but it couldn't leave because of customs procedures being sometimes in some places still, I would say, very traditional. So again, it's an opportunity to find ways of, if then the vaccination arrives in a country, and you mentioned landlocked countries in Africa, that those vaccines can be ideally pre-cleared before they arrive, and then be distributed in the most fastest ways.
Digital, yes, we had to go digital. There was complete lockdown. We weren't in the office. Nobody was in the office. So we have some cool guys in the office who then explored and on their own said, okay, now we take our own training sessions online, and we go online with our partners, dealers or distributors or bodybuilders, to facilitate conversations, training sessions, shorter and longer, and we play with this. And the guys who are doing this, have become really good. So we now can conduct sessions online, virtually, and connect people from Morocco to Pakistan, and they're all in the same virtual room discussing, learning, and contributing. So I think you said crisis, don't let a good crisis go to waste, quoting Winston Churchill. Yes, I think we've developed something that we would not have otherwise, and this, what we developed, will stay in the future. And having now learned how to act in a digital world, allows us to address certain issues in a direct, comprehensive form in a much faster way than we would have done in the past, where we would have said, okay, now we have to plan a business trip and we'll be there in 3 weeks. Now we can say, okay, we can make a video call and we'll be there in 2 hours.
If we want true traceability across the entire supply chain, it will require all partners to work on this in collaboration. Right from the e-booking to dynamic pricing to track and trace, all these components are key for us as an industry to ensure that eventually we can move to a paperless environment. In terms of data sharing and tracking the movement of vaccines, every partner in this end-to-end supply chain has a role to play in this, and therefore needs to be in a position to provide data that can provide this complete traceability of any movement of vaccines across the entire supply chain. So I don't think we've done enough in this part. I think there's a lot more to be done and a lot more to be said about data sharing. I think our responsibility at Emirates is to ensure that we provide the track and trace capabilities of the shipment when it's on our aircraft. But I think in terms of providing an end-to-end view or visibility of all the vaccines or any pharma shipments that we move today requires all our partners to be part of that. That includes all the entities, from the origin, while it's in the air, to the destination, even down to the entities and regulatory authorities like customs and the Ministry of Health. All these partners have a part to play. Because it's not just about when it's on the aircraft, it's about the end-to-end journey of that vaccine, and I think we all have a part to play, and therefore our part is making sure that we can provide that visibility while it's in our custody, and we will do that.
This period, pandemic, is, I think, really now it's a need, rather than something nice to have, the digitalization. I think all of people have realized that this is the way forward, and then I think everybody is buying into it much more, whether it's customers or it's our own employees or anybody is buying into it as a need of the hour. So I see it's a huge transformation in the whole digitalized process, and the companies will be forced to go into it if they are already prepared or not. The healthcare industry is controlled by the distributors, where I would say the protectionism of a distributorship model don't allow them to even share the patient details back to the pharmaceutical companies, because they keep it for themselves. So most of the pharma companies today, their information almost stops when they sell the product to the distributor. It's like a commodity sale. They don't have any visibility of the product integrity until it reaches the patient, and even on the patient information even at the pharmacy level. It's a huge black hole for the data security at the moment. So really, to understand the efficacy of the vaccine, it's very important to track that each vaccine, it goes to the individual patient, like all of us, how the effectiveness and what are the side effects, and the data information that has to go back to the vaccine producers is going to be the biggest challenge in the vaccine distribution until it reaches the patient, whether it's maintained the temperature until the product reaches the patient, or whether we have been able to meet the transit time leads. All those kind of we can provide, but we're not able to provide anything related to the product itself. And I see that it is not a competitive topic. It is not something which my colleagues here can provide, I can't provide. I think this is something which we're not working against each other here. I think we have to work together as a collective team, as an industry, and then I'm happy to hear that Maersk is investing into blockchain, which is the right solution, and which has the potential to provide that visibility with the full data integrity until it reaches the patient.
Tobias, you rightly mentioned that this, quoting Winston Churchill, that don't let a good crisis go to waste. Do you think this is an opportunity of how the industry can work together in enhancing the image of each company and the sector as a whole, to be the heroes for the world and getting them connected?
I think what we've seen internally, number one, is there was a lot of pride in the organization of what we have achieved. I think we were considered one of those critical industries. So even in the crisis, people got passes to, in the lockdown when it was in Dubai, super happy we could get out because our people were considered mission critical. What we've done internally, and again, it's perhaps a bit unusual, but we very early, our group board decided to not just talk, and we had a lot of celebrations, but every employee across the world, 550,000 people, got a €300 bonus extra. So whether there was an employee who is a courier in Ghana, whether it's the German postman, everybody got that €300, and that was really to demonstrate how we value the effort of all our people. And at the end of the day, we need the people who make the deliveries day in, day out. What I can say is that our industry in this crisis has significantly gained in terms of attractiveness as employer. So, if you look in Germany, there was just a release of new information last week. Our attractiveness as an employer, our brand has shot up. People know that we have jobs to offer, and you know, we keep connecting people, improving lives. That's our mission, and that's our purpose, and that is needed even more. And I think you mentioned many things have changed in the crisis. Yeah, I think working from home was a big subject. To be honest, when the first quarter end came in March, everybody was nervous. Can we manage that for more than 1,000 entities across the globe? It worked.
You hit on some great points, Tobias. I mean, I think really, as consumers, we were confronted with the importance of the supply chain every time we went to the supermarket, if we went to the supermarket, or if we bought online. You know, the minute we look to buy whatever our favorite branded product is, and it's stocked out, we start to understand how did it get there, and you know what's caused it for not getting there. And we all heard about the stories in you know the early part of the year of stockpiling that some people were making. So I think the supply chain being the backbone of global trade is become very much the forefront of minds. We are now working in a new, you know, in a digital way now, and I think that also digital becomes a much more important part of our businesses, and I think that requires new skills, and that also opens up new ways of attracting talent into our industry. And as you also mentioned, Tobias, I mean, I think the pride factor, the fact that our businesses played a small part in moving, whether it was PPE or essential food, into countries. I mean, I think that people like to work for businesses that have a purpose, and certainly in Maersk and all of the businesses represented here, I think we all felt that we played some role in supporting economies back on their feet, continuing back to growth.
If we want to solve the puzzle ahead of us, that we have the ability to now form different kinds of partnerships, and because it's too much to handle in the short time available to solve the critical issues that you were mentioning individually alone, and trying to compete for the last dollar in company profits. There's a bigger thing out there, and I think the huge benefit that we may get from this is that we rethink how we do business with each other, and long-standing partnerships across different industry sectors are necessary to get this done, but will also then create benefit for employees and customers of our sector in general. So I think there's a huge benefit going forward.
You can see that some of the infrastructure providers and port operators and the major shipping lines and all never used to call themselves a logistics company. I think today they all like to call themselves as global logistics companies. Yeah? So which means that the term logistics is much more broader than how it was defined in the past. So that's a good healthy sign. And yeah, the COVID-19 situation has strengthened that position, and I agree with all the colleagues here said that you know that all the healthcare frontline workers definitely and well deserve to be acknowledged to be the heroes, but some of the unsung heroes, like you mentioned, are the people from the logistics industry who actually made it work. Dubai historically has been the hub for pharmaceutical products distribution, because quite a lot of pharmaceutical products are produced in Asia, whether it is in India or in other Asian countries, and it goes out to major markets around the world. So it is already very well positioned to capitalize on this situation. And also when it comes to the pharmaceutical cold chain, and I must say that Dubai airport has already been at the forefront in terms of validating all their processes for the cold chain, particularly for the pharmaceutical products. And the infrastructure they created is definitely far superior to anybody else in the region, if not better than anybody else in the world. So, and geographical positioning of Dubai, I think most of the vaccines are produced in, quite a lot is going to be in India. As you know, that the Oxford AstraZeneca is going to be produced in India. Sanofi is going to be produced in India, and I think even Russian vaccine is in discussions to be produced there. And then apart from that, there's got 3 of the Indian-owned domestic vaccines like the Bharat Biotech and I think Cadila and even Serum is also phase 3 clinical trials are happening, which is primarily probably going to African countries and some of the other Central Asian countries. The access to the market which is producing is a huge advantage for Dubai, and plus Dubai, obviously they play a major role for the domestic market, which is the UAE market. I know that either Dubai or Abu Dhabi is going to be the major player to make sure that, because initially it's going to be a government controlled process. Dubai can potentially be the stockholding hub for those countries who just doesn't have the infrastructure and also the process ready to distribute this vaccine until it reaches the patient.
Dubai is a well-established, well-oiled machinery, as you said, if it comes to logistics. You have the Emirates with the huge fleet and capacity, which will be important, and especially you have a lot of connections to most parts of the world. A geographical location as well. One aspect I think I would add on top is security. I mean, there will be a lot of vaccination stored. There's a lot of value behind, and there is a risk that security, especially in other places of the world, say in Africa, is not as easy to maintain as it is here. So what I can see, and I personally believe, I think UAE, I'm pretty sure the 10 million people we have here will be vaccinated in a rather fast way. But then I think Dubai can also play a big role in helping the 1.3 billion people across Africa. I think Dubai is, for me personally, number 1.
So Dubai is a great location. If you just fly 3 hours from Dubai, you can basically penetrate more than 2 billion population. And if you extend a bit further than that, you get to your 5.5 billion people. So from a geographic location, Dubai is in a great location. Our fleet, we fly to more than 135 destinations from Dubai. So our network and our capability is extremely powerful in the sense of reaching and connecting people. And therefore, from a vaccine standpoint, it makes perfect sense geographically, and our reach and our capability is well placed and well suited to ensure that we can get this much needed vaccine to the people that need it most. In addition to that, our hub here in Dubai, we have a fully GDP compliant hub. Our hub is 15,000 square meters in size, temperature controlled, is approved by the Ministry of Health, and it enables us to store the vaccines. So it will operate as a cross-dock, if you like, which enables us to bring the vaccine in from whether it's China, from Europe, from the United States, or from India, to bring it into Dubai, and that allows us to keep this vaccine in a temperature-controlled facility. And when you now distribute out into these other countries from Dubai, whether it's into the GCC, into Africa, or the Indian subcontinent, that enables us to even distribute this vaccine in a just-in-time basis. So what that means is we don't necessarily have to move 300 million or 2 million vaccines to any particular destination. We can do that in smaller quantities. So that sets us up in a really good position, and the frequency of flights that we have into all these destinations, into Africa, the Middle East, Indian subcontinent, allows us to move these vaccines on a daily basis. In some cases, we have more than 2 to 3 flights operating on a daily basis, which enables us then to feed these vaccines out in smaller quantities to the countries that need it most.
Logistic people are people who are really good in execution. People working in logistics get things done. We are there to find solutions. We are working 24/7 in finding ways to connect people, bringing the PPE to the people who need it. We will manage to bring the vaccination to the people who need it in the shape and form, in the temperature conditions required. And I think that, for me, is the key learning. I think what is fantastic for us is getting the recognition for the industry, really making it attractive for talents. We have a lot of super smart youngsters in Europe who want to work for us because they don't want to work about theoretical problems. They want to get involved in solving real people problems. And that's what we try to do, connecting people, improving lives, and that's how I see it.
We've focused a lot on vaccine distribution right now. If we get all the vaccine out and we don't get the food out, it doesn't help much. So I think the logistics sector has shown how important it is. And for all who keep the world moving, we need logistics. And it brings us together from different countries, different continents. It also serves a much bigger purpose than just moving goods. It makes us better people because we connect people, and we are connected. And I'm sure your company employs people from all over the world. We employ people from all over the world. And in the logistics sector, internationally, globally connecting people, you need a group of people that can do that themselves. I think out of the 100 people we employ, we have 26 different nationalities. So on a larger scale, I think with what we do, we also help to reduce conflict levels in the world rather than increasing them by being a diverse organization working across the globe. And if that receives more global recognition, I think it's better for all of us.
I would say that yes, cybersecurity is a threat for everybody. It's nothing new, and then organizations are geared for it. Still, basically, things happen. But coming back to the COVID-19 vaccine, I think the spoilage is potentially a threat, and that is why I agree with Tobias that it's important to use established and tested and proven routes, which is validated in terms of security, particularly Dubai. We talked about Dubai as a hub. It's important to use the transshipment hubs as potentially the major area for such kind of security threats, as well as in the origin airports. So the validation of the processes in advance is very important, and making sure that we are going through the same process while we execute the shipment is the key. Tracking mechanisms, which is validated by the IATA for air freight movements, is also being used by us, and I'm sure that others as well. So there are solutions that can give some certain level of visibility. I think organizations, I believe, will demonstrate much more empathy and also much more value, and also much more value to the partnerships and relationships that they have going forward, because we are in it together, like you said. And I am hoping for a better future after the situation.
Thank you, and I think empathy is a great word, really, because as leaders we've had to adjust significantly how we work with our colleagues and with our customers, and I think these are things that we must take, forward regardless of whatever the future situation is, and learning how we communicate and engage our teams is something that will sustain, I'm sure, beyond this period.
So I think logistics has always been massively understated. I think for the first time globally, people have recognized how important logistics is, or how important the end-to-end supply chain of critical commodities is. And I think now for the first time people recognize this and realize that there is a need for logistics. It's actually now driving more people wanting to understand logistics more, and we see a bigger demand for people wanting to be part of it, and this will open up more opportunities for people in terms of career and development. So I think it's a great opportunity for people to become aware of logistics and how important it is. I think one of the other things is to ensure that we don't lose sight that we have been moving millions and millions of kilos of key commodities globally. People don't recognize and are not aware of the fact that we're constantly moving product around the world. And that could be anything from chilies from India feeding into London, or pharmaceuticals moving from India into Chicago, into New York. There's a constant demand of commodities, food, apparel, electronics, whatever it might be. It is a constant movement of products globally, and I think that will continue. I think with the pandemic, we've seen a surge in demand for capacity, and COVID has certainly played its part in having a negative impact on capacity. There's been a lot of capacity removed from the entire supply chain. We just have to ensure that we are resilient and have resilience built into the end-to-end supply chain, and that we collectively with partners ensure that we are prepared to take on and manage the vaccine globally. This is not a one-horse race. Everyone has a part to play. At Emirates, we will put our best foot forward. And I think everyone has a part in this to ensure the successful delivery of these vaccines to the people that need it most.
Well, thank you very much to all of our panelists today, and thank you for all of you watching this video. We hope you will take back these key takeaways and implement them in your own organization. And once again, this pandemic calls for greater collaboration and time for all of us to work together so that we can multilaterally and all of us together combat this virus. And thank you very much once again for watching. There's plenty more content going to be available on Transport and Logistics Middle East when it comes to challenging the COVID-19. Thank you very much for watching.